Welcome, everyone. Just going to let folks start to trickle in. And thanks so much for joining our webinar, The Retrofit Edge, Innovation in Action for Commercial Buildings. So as everyone trickles in, just going to introduce myself and give a little bit of logistics. So my name is Ria Perot. I'm a Climate Programs Manager at MaRS Discovery District, and I lead our Mission from MaRS Better Buildings program. A couple of logistics: this session is being recorded. If you do have questions for the panelists or presenters, please submit them via the Q&A function. Closed captioning is available at the bottom of your screen. And for questions or technical issues, please use the chat function to communicate with the MaRS team directly. So let's get into it. This is the first of two Mission from MaRS Better Buildings fall webinars. Today we will be exploring innovation in action for commercial real estate retrofits. So as mentioned, I will kick things off with a little bit of context on MaRS, on our Better Buildings mission, and then we'll dive right into it with a panel that explores some of the misconceptions and barriers around conducting retrofits and how innovative technologies and approaches can play a role. We will also share some details about our upcoming corporate cohort, which aims to help owners of mid-market hotels, motels, gyms, clubs, spas, and similar buildings decarbonize their own buildings through innovation adoption. And finally, we will hear from some innovative companies themselves. So before jumping into all that, I did want to acknowledge that while this is a virtual event, MaRS is based in Toronto. I'm located in Toronto, and that is the ancestral and present-day homelands and waterways of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations. The Métis people of Toronto and York regions have also settled their communities here. And when we're talking about buildings, we're really always talking about the histories that have come before us and the land that they're on. So I'm grateful to live and work in Toronto, and I encourage you to learn more about the land that you're calling in from. And there are some resources to do so in the chat. So a little bit about MaRS, jumping into things. MaRS is North America's largest urban innovation hub, and we act as an ecosystem convener in virtual spaces like these, but also in our physical ones. So what you're looking at in this picture on the left is our actual MaRS Center in downtown Toronto, and we also operate the Waterfront Innovation Center. So in that physical space, innovators, corporates, community connectors are all meant to collide. It's meant to be this community where these collisions can also lead to something more. So in addition to the real estate side of things, MaRS is also a registered nonprofit, and we support over 1,200 Canadian technology companies with tailored services and programs to help them on their path to commercialization. Across the board, we know that Canada is home to some of the world's best climate technology innovations. We have incredibly advanced research and innovation capabilities, incredible universities, resources, facilities, people to excel on the global stage. But when it comes to adoption, our homegrown companies might start to struggle. There are a lot of barriers to adoption that are unique to Canadian markets and communities, such as regulatory barriers, risk aversion, and lack of investment. So we have all these incredible innovations, but without adoption, it hits a dead end. So the innovation adoption is sort of where Mission from MaRS comes in and it focuses. Mission from MaRS is one of MaRS's flagship climate programs that aims to bridge this gap between the startups and the market to help accelerate adoption and meet our climate goals. Under each mission, we take on a variety of activities and projects that mobilize industry leaders, facilitate cross-silo conversations and connections, and enable the growth of high-potential climate technologies. We currently have 3 missions: Better Buildings, Public Procurement, and Carbon Management, and we'll be launching our 4th, Food and Agriculture, later this month, so please keep an eye out for that. But through our missions, we hone in on supporting the adoption of clean tech, in particular high-impact areas such as building decarbonization. The objectives of the Better Buildings mission are to help reduce the operational emissions of existing building stock through the adoption of innovations. So that's really what we're going to be talking about all of today. We also want to help accelerate the uptake of low carbon materials and methods to lower the embodied carbon of new buildings, as well as amplify the role of Canadian clean tech in efforts to create a more resilient, adaptive, and affordable built environment. So I'm very excited to talk about all of these things through these webinars and the discussions that we'll be having today and a few weeks from now. Let's just dive right in. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass things over to Mick to bring us through our first panel discussion of the day. Mick, over to you.
Thanks, Ria, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. Like Ria said, my name is Mick Malawani. I'm a senior manager with MaRS's corporate innovation team. I focus on helping prospective adopters of climate and clean tech innovations to connect with the Canadian startups that are best suited to solving their specific business challenges. And I'm also responsible for MaRS's Better Buildings Hospitality and Recreation Business Cohort. You're going to hear more on that program a little later in the webinar. But first up, I am very pleased to moderate this panel discussion. So with this, we're going to jump straight into some of the hardest problems in the world of building decarbonization retrofits and building performance upgrades, including how to build a business case for these projects, how to sell that business case to multiple stakeholders, and how we can lower the financial and logistical burdens to make execution of those projects viable. Here to help us explore that today with some very practical and hands-on perspectives, I'm pleased to introduce Allison Hunter, Ashley Jones, and Erin Ellis. We'll take a second here to go around the virtual table and have each panelist briefly introduce themselves, their role, and maybe also share what gets you most fired up about sustainability, decarbonization, and innovation in commercial real estate. So first up, I'm just sort of going to go from left to right on that intro slide. We have Allison Hunter, General Manager at Hyatt Place Ottawa West, who has spearheaded several high-profile sustainability initiatives at her hotel and successfully sold her various business stakeholders on the win-wins of these projects. Allison, over to you.
Thank you, Mick. I think he introduced me just fine. But as he mentioned, I'm the general manager at the Hyatt Place. I would like to say one of Canada's most sustainable hotels. And I will preface the fact that I am not a sustainability expert nor a building expert. I'm a seasoned hotelier that found a passion in the sustainability space when I opened this hotel 5 years ago. I think we can all agree that profits are tighter than ever. Expenses are outpacing revenues. And we look to innovation and change to find new savings opportunities. And if realistically, if you don't innovate, you're going to be left behind. So although our building is only 5 years young, we are continuously pushing the envelope on sustainability and innovation.
Thanks, Allison, and welcome to the fold of those passionate about sustainability. We welcome experts and non-experts alike. Next up is Ashley Jones, Development Director at Sofiac. Ashley brings a depth of experience assisting both private and public organizations to achieve their decarbonization and energy management goals. And in her role at Sofiac is squarely focused on accomplishing that through investment in our built environment assets. Ashley, take it away.
Hi there. So similar to Allison, I was not born and bred into sustainability, but have fallen into it, fallen in love with it. I have a daughter who's almost 10, and we need to do our part in terms of sustainability. I've been with Sofiac for just over a year now, but I was with a previous leading ESCO organization, so energy service company, for just over a decade. So very familiar with the financial side, some of the technical. I like to call myself a generalist in sustainability, not an expert in one specific thing. But in terms of something that gets me fired up is I get really excited to see new technology and actually projects get implemented. A lot of times I find that there's a lot of studies that are out there, but not a lot of action on the jobs. So it's great seeing MaRS and everyone here today looking on how we can actually accomplish this versus just getting a study on it.
Cool. Thank you, Ashley. And last but not least, we have Erin Ellis, Senior Director of Development at Efficiency Capital. Much like Ashley, actually, Erin is driving progress towards a net zero built environment by enabling organizations to undertake building upgrade projects to the mutual benefit of the economy and the environment. And she also serves as an expert advisor with the Building Decarbonization Alliance. So yeah, Erin, over to you.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Yeah, so just like the other two ladies on the panel today, I am not necessarily, I'm not coming from an engineering background or an investment banking background, and a lot of folks in this space are coming from one or the other. My background is actually largely in public policy and the commercialization of innovation. So as a result of that, I've spent, the better part of the last 15-ish years of my career in and around the MaRS ecosystem. And so I'm really happy to be a part of the panel today and obviously to support kind of the broader work that's happening with this Better Building initiative. I would say what gets me most fired up these days is that retrofits aren't any longer just a green initiative. They're really one of the smartest capital improvement strategies that are available for asset owners. And that that really is starting to change the narrative, and we're starting to see a lot more progress towards that transition of a low carbon economy for Canada, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Very exciting. Thanks, Aaron. And it strikes me, and Aaron, you sort of made passing reference to it, that completely unintentionally, we're also highlighting 3 women leading the way in this space, which is very encouraging to see. We at MaRS are very proud of our Women in Clean Tech programming, and any opportunity we get to highlight progress on gender representation in these spaces is, I think, super worthwhile. But that's a topic for another panel. Let's turn our attention to building and socializing a successful business case for a building decarbonization project. So Allison, I'm going to start with you again. You work in a business where these kinds of decisions to retrofit a building, install equipment, et cetera, have to run through multiple stakeholders. You have the building owner, the management company that runs the hotel operations, the franchise whose brand you operate under. What's the biggest misconception you encounter when it comes to sort of shepherding the pitch for building retrofits or innovative sustainability solutions amongst these various stakeholders?
Cost. I think bottom line, I think people are afraid of the capital cost and they're looking too much in tunnel vision and not realizing that not only sometimes is there not even an actual capital cost because there might be a revenue sharing stream with the vendor of said product, but the efficiencies that you're going to gain operationally to your GOP are just exponentially the cost savings, right? People just think, oh, it's expensive to be green. No, it's not that. It's actually if you put the capital expenditure on solar power in your building, you're going to see the cost savings through your utility bills right out of the gate. So I think honestly, it's that fear. Certainly in hotels, it's that fear of a large sticker value on a capex project.
Yeah, so they hear costs or they hear sustainability and they immediately go to cost. Do you have any strategies that you use to kind of dispel that misconception, get them to see maybe some of the win-wins in implementing some of these projects?
Yeah, well, you definitely have to look at the whole picture, right? Our building is not old, and we put in geothermal earth energy and we put in solar power, motion sensor lighting, all kinds of things throughout the building at the get-go. And so there would be a misconception that, well, okay, great, you did all that. Like what else is there to do? But technology is changing all the time. And so we're constantly looking, as I mentioned before, to innovation. And we did something just last month that's going to help on water savings. And you got to listen to a lot of pitches, I guess, and you got to listen to what's out there. But the reality is I had a minimal installation cost and we're going to share on the savings on my water bills. And there's no risk to us on the other end. If it doesn't work, I get my money back and we take the piece of equipment out of the building and move on. But there was definitely enough testimonials to show that it is working in many cities throughout Canada.
Yeah, hopefully you keep relentlessly pursuing further improvements and building, a data set to support it so that you can go into those conversations with sort of armed with, stronger and more persuasive arguments. Aaron, I wonder if I might go to you next. Allison has given us sort of the insider's perspective. You might elaborate on how you and Efficiency Capital sell building upgrades and decarbonization projects to clients acting as a third party. What strategies do you use to get all the relevant stakeholders on board with these projects?
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, or from my perspective, and then our perspective more broadly, the conversation around deep energy retrofits has really been siloed for too long, right? We've talked about the environmental benefits over here and then the financial returns over there. And the reality is that they're really two sides of the same coin. And the business case really needs to be built on kind of a perfect alignment of those interests, right? So for the asset owners, it's pretty simple. I would say you're really turning a major cost center, your energy costs or utility costs, into a source of value. When you're able to dramatically cut down those operating expenses, you're immediately boosting your net operating income and therefore the building's like the market value, right? You get a premium, future-proofed asset that's going to have better tenant attraction and retention there. And so the overall value and the overall operations are going to be improved. I think when you're looking at it then from the investor side, those like the investor in that building side, or even from us as an investor potentially in that building, the guaranteed savings stream that's going to be generated there is going to create a really predictable low risk cash flow, right? We're essentially there funding high performing infrastructure upgrades that we know we're going to deliver stable long-term returns. And they're also going to help those investors in the buildings. And this is particularly important when we're talking about, pension fund backed buildings, that it's going to deliver on those ESG mandates for those investors, right? I think, kind of the third part here, and you didn't necessarily ask about this, but knowing the audience, is that, for the innovators in the room here, they're really the engine that's able to drive that whole process. So the primary benefit for the innovators, the adaptists, et cetera, is really, the ability to scale and the bankability for the technology that you have. So while your technology might be groundbreaking, it's going to need a commercial pathway. And so when investors in companies like ours are actually able to then structure, multi-million-dollar retrofit projects that are going to incorporate that technology, it's going to provide definitive proof to the market that your solution or your innovation isn't just innovative, it's actually financially viable. So I guess kind of back to the question, I think the owner's operational win is really the investor's financial win, and the innovation is driving kind of the improvements for both there. So it's not just a win-win, it's I guess a win-win-win, if that makes sense.
We like more wins.
Yeah.
If we rip more wins into that phrase. It strikes me that, and Allison made passing reference to some savings sharing as a way to get these projects off the ground, a way to make the business case work. There might be people in the audience actually who are unaware of how this might work. Maybe I can ask Aaron and Ashley to answer this jointly. Aaron, if you wouldn't mind explaining maybe energy as a service and how that model works, and maybe just like a quick primer for the uninitiated into how a third party can step in, or a vendor could step in, and through that sort of sharing of the savings stream, make these projects viable.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess kind of first and foremost there, you really can't think of efficiency capital as kind of a traditional project financier. You really need to think of us as more of a long-term partner in your building that's there to deliver very specific outcomes. And that's because energy as a service works by kind of completely flipping the script on who's taking the risk in a retrofit project. So instead of the building owner facing kind of that massive multi-million-dollar check that's required to upgrade their aging equipment, we instead in this model are paying for everything up front, everything from that engineering audit to the equipment to the labor to the commissioning, everything in between to really turn on, so to speak, a high performing building. So I guess like under this approach, ultimately what's happening is the owner doesn't want to pay for the energy infrastructure, right? Like at the end of the day, an owner wants to pay for the outcomes. They don't want to pay for vents and lighting fixtures. They want to pay for BTUs and lumens, right? So leveraging an energy as a service approach to upgrade the buildings, the owner is going to get those guaranteed outcomes, but they're getting that on a fixed fee for the length of whatever that agreement is, which makes the project really bankable and really predictable for all of the asset managers, right? And they love that. There's nothing that they like more than making sure that it's bankable, it's predictable. For EC and for other energy as a service companies, it means that we have the ability in this model to choose the best performing equipment and technology to deliver those outcomes, because we're on the hook for delivering those outcomes for 10, 15, 20 years. So it puts us in a position where we're always on the lookout for new innovations, be it equipment or engineering design, any sort of innovation that's going to help us improve those results. Yeah, I'll stop there and let Ashley kind of answer the same question,
Yeah.
because I could go on a shared savings model, but I think I'll leave that to Ashley.
Yeah, Ashley, thanks, Aaron. I think that's a great primer. Ashley, if you want to go into more depth about how Sofiac functions and how Sofiac's model can help asset owners move forward with an innovative retrofit project that might otherwise seem too financially burdensome, too financially risky or expensive, take it away.
I think when it comes to energy efficiency on a whole, what organizations need to understand is if there's savings to be had, efficiencies to be had, you're paying for that regardless. So it's, do you want to be paying your hydro company, or do you want to be paying to be able to get your infrastructure upgraded and reach your different sustainability goals? What I like about what Efficiency Capital and Sofiac do is we're not trying to plug any specific type of equipment. It's about what equipment makes sense and what goals that you have, and what outcomes, again, not to repeat Aaron, but what outcomes you're looking to achieve. Are you looking to achieve a certain level of heating, which we always are, or cooling? Are we looking to achieve a certain amount of energy efficiency? Are we looking to hit decarbonization goals? So it's important to understand that first before we start deciding which technology goes in there. In terms of the shared savings model, Sofiac's shared savings model typically works on a 85-15. So if you're saving $100, and which we would insure, then you would pay back $85 of it. If you're saving no savings, then you pay zero. So you're always going to be cash flow positive when you're working with our program. And then again, like Allison said, it's a really goes, the risk transfer goes over to us. And a lot of organizations that are out there might not be aware that there are organizations like Sofiac or Efficiency Capital, or even Measure by Measure. If you're not looking to have sort of a general contractor or a funding or a financier, there are different ones that will accept that risk transfer. Going back into a little bit more about Efficiency Capital, Sofiac type solutions, it's nice because we're not looking at individual measures. We're looking at about it, all of it together. And what I do find sometimes is when you do look at a measure by measure, what can happen is if something does go wrong, it ends up with a lot of finger pointing. And when you work with something like Sofiac, we're going to be able to be the ones who hold it accountable. So you can get that technology, that innovation that's in there, as well as the energy savings, the funding, and the GHG reduction all at the same time.
Yeah, from my understanding, taking over that immense sort of technical burden and logistical burden is a huge part of the value prop of organizations like EC and Sofiac. I wonder, you touched on this briefly, Ashley, but the sort of the technology agnostic component of your approach. We at MaRS often talk about barriers to innovation adoption, and a huge one is, the risk aversion and small c conservatism primarily in the Canadian business economy. It's Ria made reference to we in Canada lag behind in the innovation adoption part of the equation, whereas we're far ahead of the pack in terms of the actual sort of innovation creation. So I wonder if you can comment on, does this technology agnostic approach kind of remove that decision from maybe the much more risk averse conservative building owner, business owner? Does that serve to sort of lower some of the barriers so that these more innovative, newer technologies can be adopted? Is that approach creating more opportunities for clean tech from Canada, from Canadian startups and innovators to be used in real world projects? I think primarily for Ashley and Aaron, but Ashley, why don't you go first?
Yes, I think being agnostic about it really helps that risk transfer and that trust aspect. I'm not in there trying to sell solar panels, geothermal, or anything else that's innovative. It's about how can we do this to, again, achieve what goals are you looking for? Some people are looking for a pathway to net zero. Some people are immediately looking to go to net zero. So we need to understand what they want first. But I think by being agnostic, it really helps mitigate that risk. Again, because we're looking for that outcome. A good example would be, I was speaking with a geothermal company, for instance, and they're going to be trying to drill as much boreholes as they possibly can. Our solar company is going to look to put as much solar panels on there, but that's not necessarily what our goal is. We want to know, how can we lower the intensity first, so we're not putting as much solar panels on there, we're not drilling as much holes, and you're still getting the outcomes that you want. So I feel very comfortable being in the line of work where I'm not plugging any specific sort of technology. And what we can do is work with organizations like MaRS and the other organizations that work with MaRS to understand more about the technology and where it fits in. Because every technology is not necessarily going to fit in with every hotel. It's going to depend on the location, the size. So I think absolutely the trust factor, working with an organization that's agnostic, can help bring in more innovation.
Yeah, Erin, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think from our standpoint, and everything you actually said, I completely agree with, absolutely. And I think ultimately as well, and Sofiak and EC are in the same boat here, because we're really on the hook for performance, at least with EC, I know our engineering team is constantly searching for the absolute best-in-class solutions for any given building, right? So we're not just looking for kind of the bigger brand names that are well known. We've got a direct financial incentive here to find the smartest control system or the most efficient heat pump, or the best solar or innovation, regardless of what part of the building ecosystem it's actually going to play in. And that's going to really help these companies overcome that barrier to commercialization. I spent enough years working with the World Trade Center, taking high growth Canadian firms across multiple sectors into international markets, helping them commercialize. And one of the issues we always faced, or one of the kind of paradigms we always talked about, was Canada is really great at research and not so great at the development. So it's big R, little d, right? And so I think we really see ourselves as a commercialization partner for the incredible talent that's coming out of places like MaRS, our universities, so on and so forth. And when we find a Canadian technology that meets kind of the rigorous standards that we have, obviously, to put into a building, because we are using, third-party institutional capital, so it has to be something that's, off the TRL scale. We have to have some sort of proven value and proven metrics around it. But we're really aimed here at helping build that next generation of Canadian, clean tech, prop tech leaders by giving them this kind of sandbox to play in, right? So, yes, we're like, being agnostic is kind of the key to overcoming some of that conservatism, but it also becomes a really powerful launchpad for Canadian innovation. And personally, I love that.
Yeah, we think you are key players. EC, Sofiak, similar orgs, key players in enabling that commercialization. Allison, I want to circle back to you. We've been talking about more innovative technologies and solutions that are maybe proven to an extent, but are entirely new and unfamiliar to the businesses that might actually benefit from adopting them. Can you take us through how you go about sort of testing out, de-risking, finding the right technology fit for your business needs at Hyatt Place?
Sure. Definitely due diligence. And I think there's an example I can think of something that we are implementing as we speak. We just last week, we put in a new product that is going to reduce waste, reduce operating costs, supposedly. So what we're doing in this case, we are beta testing one floor at a time instead of doing the entire building. Gaining customer feedback. There's an operational component from our staff in this perspective, so getting their ideas, seeing if there's any kinks that need to be worked out prior to rolling it out to the whole building. But definitely before we even entered into that space, because that particular product is, we're changing how Hyatt does things, period. A global company, and we are the only hotel trying this. So we are definitely the guinea pig, and if it goes, then this we could help this Canadian company launch across across the world. But we weren't the first hotel, and in this particular case, I think I probably would have been happy to have been the first hotel. I just didn't know about the product. But it's definitely like customer testimonials that you talk about the trust factor, Ashley, trusting and knowing that people that you know, right? It's not putting it in AI to ask what do they think of this product, but people that you know and trust, and it has been proven to deliver on whatever it is that you're looking to deliver, cost savings, more sustainable, etc.
Yeah. Thanks, Allison. So we're running out of time rapidly. We have a few minutes left here for final thoughts. We'll go around the table again. I'll go in reverse order from our intros. So we'll start with Aaron. In hopefully 30 seconds or less, if you can give your top piece of advice to asset owners, business managers, innovators listening today on how to successfully scope, pitch, and deliver a successful deep energy retrofit project or technology upgrade that's looking to make some sustainability impact in buildings. Aaron, take it away and pass it straight to Ashley, and Ashley to Allison after that.
That's a big question for 30 seconds. So all I'm going to say is I think for building owners, you need to focus on the most direct advantage, which is that significant reduction in your operational expenditures, which is really going to translate to an improved NOI, sorry, not ROI, NOI, and also satisfy some of those ESG commitments that you have with investors, while breathing new life into your buildings, right? This is ultimately going to increase your property value, your marketability to tenants, et cetera, et cetera. But you have to, or I would encourage you to take a holistic approach to the benefits when you're pitching these projects internally. I think for the innovators that are here today, position yourself as the force multipliers in that equation. Your innovations are really what's changed the math in recent years on these retrofit projects. You're making it possible to achieve, energy savings and GHG reductions that just weren't possible, 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? And so that's helping to make that financial case for owners and investors almost undeniable at this point in time. And so really listen to the objectives of those owners, integrate your solution into that narrative by solving the challenge that they've identified as facing, and then just be prepared to demonstrate past commercial viability, because data is ultimately what's going to drive those decisions that are being made. And I'll turn it to Ashley.
Akin to what you were saying, I think looking at it holistically, whether it's holistically within the building, is important. Understanding that all stakeholders are speaking with each other so that they're understanding, for instance, the financial benefits as well as the sustainable benefits, because often they think that they're forces against each other, like Allison said, when really they actually work together. So I think it's good to get all those stakeholders aligned. I'm also big on a holistic approach to ensure that when you are looking at the different technology, but how does that interact with the other technology that's in the building? So there is a lot of the innovation that's out there. Some of it can even be multiplied by putting, multiple types of innovative technology together. So look at the systems on a whole in terms of the people systems, and then also the systems that are within that building.
Ladies, you covered it. You took all the words out of my mouth, and there's no need. I know we're running short on time, I should say. I don't need to rinse, repeat in a different way. Innovators come prepared with as much data, proof of concept as possible. And as long as we keep supporting Canadian, the world is our oyster.
I love that. Thanks, Allison. Great note to end on. I think we've run out the clock on Q&A, but I do believe as panelists, you should be able to access the Q&A function and maybe answer some questions directly in sort of chat form. So I will say feel free to do that and we'll move on for time's sake. So thank you very much to the panel. We're very grateful for your time and insight into the practical challenges of getting building retrofit or upgrade project off the ground. It's a very sticky problem, a very challenging problem, and it's the central focus of a new and exciting program that we're launching here at MaRS. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it now. So the Better Buildings Hospitality and Recreation Business Cohort, it's an 18-month block of programming launching next month and running through spring of 2027. And the goal of this program is to help a group of 5 to 10 businesses in the hospitality and recreation sectors. So that's hotels, motels, spas, clubs, gyms, etc. To help those businesses reduce their operating expenses and improve their customer experience by integrating modern, reliable, high efficiency solutions from a Canadian clean technology venture. As the name suggests, and as the topic for today's webinar suggests, the program will focus on improving the performance of buildings. So participating businesses will receive expert support in first developing a strategy and action plan for building performance improvement. Second, in assessing potential technologies to address the specific needs and context of your facilities. And finally, actually deploying a technology upgrade in one of your buildings. So this won't just be about making plans, making assessments, or raising awareness. We will actually be working with you to get to the point where you're actually integrating these technologies into your operations and realizing the benefits. You have the opportunity here to work with some of the fantastic startups within MaRS, some of which you'll hear later in the webinar during the venture pitch session. You could have the opportunity even to connect with and work with folks at Efficiency Capital and Sofiac. Delivery partners are going to be a piece of this puzzle. So just to give you an idea of how much of an impact these technologies can have, if you just jump back, Ria, sorry about that. We're looking at, based on a sample of startups in our network, possible up to 40% savings on electricity and energy costs with some fantastic renewable and battery storage technologies, 30% savings on heating and cooling costs with some energy efficient HVAC equipment and advanced window coatings. And finally, with advanced indoor air quality systems, we're estimating you could achieve a 1 to 2 star improvement on customer experience ratings, as well as benefits for happiness and retention of staff. All of these technologies can have a significant benefit to the net operating income of buildings in these sectors. Now go to the next slide. So who should apply? We're welcoming applications from building owners and operators of any building in the hospitality and recreation sector. No restrictions on size or configuration of building, size of portfolio, or size of the business operating out of the building. We are looking for buildings and businesses with clearly delineated responsibility for decision-making about these upgrades and retrofits. And part of this preference is for both the building and the business operating out of it to be owned by the same entity. Finally, we ideally want to work with businesses who have a retrofit or upgrade project planned within the next 1 to 2 years, ideally with early planning steps like a building performance audit already completed. This is a rough profile, so a lot of these are sort of ideal preferences. We are currently recruiting cohort members. So if you see yourself in this profile, you see someone in your network who fits this profile, even if they aren't an exact match, we very much welcome them to apply. And if you go to the next slide now. The first step to getting involved and benefiting from this program will be to fill out our application form. You can access it via this QR code. I think we're also pasting a link to the form in the chat. Thank you everyone for indulging that brief plug for the Better Buildings Hospitality and Recreation Business Cohort. And I will pass it to Ria with apologies for running over time to introduce today's venture pitches.
All good. Thanks so much, Mick. And thank you so much to Allison, Erin, and Ashley for a great panel. I learned a lot, so thank you so much for sharing your expertise and knowledge. Okay, we have 3 amazing ventures that are going to be pitching today for you. So the first one is Adaptus. So I'm going to pass things over to Mark Collins, Head of Sales and Customer Success. So Mark, take it away.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Mark Collins, as Ria said, from Adaptus, and really we're a full life cycle solution, starting with the design phase through long-term planning to end of life. And for today, I'll be focusing on that long-term planning piece. Ria, you can go to the next slide. So one of the challenges that we're seeing in this space right now is that one of the challenges that we're looking to solve and are solving currently is that there's multiple stakeholders who are involved in getting these decisions across the line. And they need different data, they need different information to make these decisions, and they're very siloed. across the organizations. So again, each team needs their different data points, different information that they need to make decisions based off of, and it's not being translated across groups. So for example, sustainability is a very technical group, and they're not translating the information that's needed by asset management and finance so they can make the best decisions for the organization. Because of these siloed groups and different data, not being in the correct format, this tends to be a very slow process, very manual process, and a lot of communication gaps. Decisions sometimes end up being made in a vacuum because of time and just doing whatever they can to get something done in the sake of time. So what we're looking to do is kind of solve this issue and be a decision-making platform for these real estate companies. So Ria, next slide. So what happens with kind of the current process and what we're hearing is that the asset management teams are left to look at an entire portfolio or their entire portfolio of buildings, but with no real-time insights or data on where and when to invest. Typically they're making decisions on old reporting that they had done, out-of-date data, or no data at all, and kind of saying this building is one of our older buildings, we should retrofit this one, basing that off of no data. Next slide, Ria. So what we're doing here at Adaptus and what we've built is we've built what we're calling a decision-making platform and bringing all the teams together in a single live platform, consolidating all the data and providing each group with the information that they need to make a decision on. So kind of taking some information from the panel earlier, not just making these decisions with a carbon focus, but also a financial focus as well. So they're making the decisions that make the best sense for the company at that time. Right now, typically, they're getting energy audits in the form of static reports. Manual calculations are then being done from those reports, maybe in an Excel document outside of the platform. And then what we're looking to do is have this all done within the platform. All of the carbon data, all the financial data, all of the building data across your entire portfolio living in one platform where all of these different groups can live, and they're going to see the data that's most relevant to them. You can go to the next slide. So, right now, like what we're doing is, we're providing a clear path for a company across their entire portfolio or for an individual building to show them exactly where they need to invest and when they need to invest. So from a portfolio standpoint, we're looking at it, say someone has 80 buildings across their portfolio. What we're doing is ingesting all of that building data into the platform, energy data, et cetera, shrinking their world down from 80 buildings and saying, these are the 5 or 7 or 10 buildings that you need to focus on right now. They're primed to be optimized. And then what we're doing is we're setting up a sequence of events. You're able to drill into those individual buildings, and we're going to show you specifically what needs to be done for those buildings and when. And we're going to set up a sequence of events of when that needs to be done over time. So we're putting together a roadmap for that portfolio to keep that optimized at all times. Because one of the things that we hear across, in a lot of these conversations is they're never actually making decisions on the portfolio with all the data they need in real time. An energy audit typically takes, 4 to 6 weeks. So if you multiply that across an 80 building portfolio, at no point in time are you looking at accurate data across your portfolio. So what we're doing is a live platform where someone can go in, look at their whole portfolio and say, this is what I need to do in my buildings at this time. And then within our system, you're able to make tweaks and edits to that data to fit what you need to do and input budgets and things like that, and input internal and internal goals for your team. Next slide, Ria. So for the types of companies that we're working with, we're working direct, real estate companies and large portfolios, but we're also working with consultants as well. Typically what we hear is the process when working with consultants, it's long, it's expensive. They do get good information from them, but by the time they receive it, that's a static document. So in 3, 4, 5 months, that's out of date. When working and talking to consultant shops now, they're really looking to increase the speed that they're able to deliver these reports to their customers. They're trying to make them more affordable. It's become very competitive in that standpoint. And they're looking to scale their businesses as well. And the way that they have to do it right now is if they're looking to scale, they need to bring on more headcount, which eats into margins. So they're looking to use a tool like an Adaptus to be able to scale their business and provide faster reporting to their customers. And when working direct B2B, these are customers that are looking to get live insights to their portfolio, not needing to have a 5-year plan to refresh their energy audits and see what they need to do. They're able to make decisions across their entire portfolio in real time. Next slide, Ray. So here's an example of a customer that used Adaptus. So they had an investor mandated target by 2050. And they had some very strict ROI budget measures on this. So they implemented Adaptus across their entire portfolio using our predictive analytics model. They were able to maximize their NPV. So they added $12 million in NPV, and they actually hit their target goal. They would hit their target goals 2 years earlier, so 2048 versus 2050. And the asset manager on this one gave us a quote that the platform delivered actionable insights in a fraction of the time and costs typically associated with traditional consulting approaches. The clarity and depth of their portfolio level overview enabled us to make informed, forward-looking decisions with confidence. And it kind of in summary of really what we're doing at Adaptus again is we're a decision-making platform. So we want to be the single source of truth for whether it's one building or an entire portfolio. So all of your building data can live within Adaptus, and your entire team can go in there and look at the measures that matter to them, whether it be carbon focused, financial focused, everything they need to do to make decisions across their entire portfolio. And the platform is going to highlight and say, hey, these are the 10 buildings or 5 buildings that you need to focus on right now. And here's exactly what you need to do and when you need to do that over time. So right now, typically, again, it's maybe a guess because it's an older building or we haven't retrofitted this one in a while. We're really helping them make informed decisions. And again, kind of something the panel said, getting these projects across the line, not just doing all of these reports and all of these presentations and saying, oh, we could reduce carbon by this amount and it's not getting across the line. There's financial impacts that can be had by the business, and we're putting that at the forefront to help get these done.
All right, thank you so much, Mark. That was a really great presentation. So the floor is open for questions from the audience, but I may actually just kick things off myself. So if you're in the audience and you have a question, please do feel free to submit them through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. But Mark, I would love to hear from you on what you see as the current bottleneck in the legacy process before Adaptus.
Yeah, so we hear in our conversations, kind of as I mentioned, that sustainability and finance, they don't speak the same language. Sustainability is very technical focused. They go into with all these reports and all the data, and it's not the information that asset managers and finance need to make a decision. So what happens is asset management might take that data and then go do their own research or own calculations, to figure out what makes the most sense for the business. And again, that adds time to the process. If there's anything that they question from what sustainability is bringing to them, they have to go back, rerun reports to make sure that's accurate. Hey, what if we did R2 windows instead of R3 windows? They need to go back, rerun what that would look like. This, with Adaptus, it's giving them the ability to make those changes in real time. And sustainability really has the ability to look at things, make their changes, their recommendations, put that into asset management. They can go in, see what sustainability has suggested, and look at it with the metrics that matter to them. So again, it's kind of being a translator between these two groups to help them communicate better and again, get these projects across the line.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Mark. We do have a couple of questions in the Q&A for you, so I'll invite you, Mark, to type your answer there for the sake of time. I am going to pass things now over to Bolis from Sense Power. So would love to welcome Bolis to share your screen and jump into your presentation when you're ready.
Lovely. Thank you, Ria. I'll share my screen here. Let me know when you can see this.
Looks good.
Right on. Okay. Good to be here, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I'm gonna talk to you all a little bit about what we do at Sense Power with direct current and why it's the best way to deliver power for your lighting retrofits and for other types of deep retrofits that you're doing in your buildings. We've been around for over 10 years now, a lot of R&D. We manufacture everything in Markham, and right now we're in over 2 million square feet of active projects as of this year. Most of our work is in a healthcare space, and we do a lot in the US. The reason we're doing this is that today over 32% of the power consumption in buildings is direct current. And it's expected to grow to over 74% by 2030. And that's being driven primarily by LED lighting. So the most efficient way to deliver light in buildings is through LEDs, and those are natively direct current. Telecom and wireless densification, so 5G and private 5G networks. And as we move into the future, telecom radios are just going to increase in density. Those are all DC powered. The most efficient motors for HVAC, those are variable refrigerant flow, variable frequency drives, electrically commutated motors. These are all brushless DC motors. Any appliance where you see inverter, like it's an LG inverter, Samsung inverter, those are all DC motors. DC motors are the most efficient type of motor for their unit of size. EVs and fast charging, level 3 fast charging can only happen on direct current, and solar panels produce direct current power and we store it in batteries as direct current. The problem is that the utilities send us AC power, and AC power alternates 60 times a second, or 60 hertz in North America, where direct current is not alternating. So we have to convert this power. And the conversion process is inefficient. And these, what we call micro conversions, they typically lose about 20% of the power in the form of heat, right? The closest example to you is your cell phone charger, your laptop charger, any one of the bricks that we use to convert the wall power into power for our digital devices. That's happening in all of the lights, a lot of the HVAC equipment, almost everything in the building that has a point of load converter. And these conversion efficiencies are unregulated. There's no regulation saying it has to be a certain percentage, except for in California, they have a above 45 watts, it has to be 85% efficient. So you're still leaving 15% of the energy on the table. The solution to this problem is important. It helps us reduce the greenhouse gas in our building operations. So this is a quick case study that we did for lighting. In this case study, we did some simple automation, just occupancy and daylight harvesting, and direct current power distribution for the lighting. And what we were able to do in this case study was save, and this was a US-based case study, the US grid intensity, carbon intensity is much more than the Canadian grid, so just something to note there, but it was roughly 1.12 pounds of CO2 emissions diverted per square foot per year using a DC power distribution system for lighting. And what that looks like in just simple terms is we use low voltage cable. So these look like Ethernet cables, but it's not Ethernet cable. It's just a low voltage cable or a thermostat wire. Instead of using mechanical protection, junction boxes, LED drivers to deliver power to the lights. What this allows us to do is also save on CapEx per project. So it's roughly $2 to $6 Canadian per square foot that's saved in a project that's using DC power for distribution for lighting in a deep retrofit. This is a UL certified system, so it is something that's safe to have installed, and it's certified in Canada and the US with CSA and the UL. And here are some cool case studies that we've done. We did a hospital in Riverside, California, Scotiabank on Bloor and Yonge. We did with Omnify Lighting. Also Yonge and Eglinton. We've done a bunch more Scotiabanks. Sport Check, this is their new flagship. in Etobicoke. You can check out some cool lighting installation we did there. In this space, you have different types of options. You have dedicated power electronics, like what we produce right here in Markham. You may have heard of power over Ethernet, or PoE for lighting. This was a what we refer to in the industry as a false start. There's the regular old line voltage drivers, and then what some people are doing is putting these drivers in a box to deliver power to the lights. So you have a number of different options in the industry. What we provide is the most power dense and most energy efficient option that provides the most CapEx benefit for lighting retrofits. And here are just a few more. This was TD Bank at Square One, Mississauga. Just an image of what that looks like from the electrical installation side. This is a Scotiabank at Bloor and Young. That's inside there at the ABM. Another shot of that sport check. And this is a one of the larger installations we've done. This is a medical office building in the Bay Area. It's a demonstration that we have set up if anyone wants to see it live, if anyone's engineering team is wanting to see it. And that's it. I'll end there, and I'll leave a time for questions. I know it's a lot, but hopefully this is a high level, and I'm happy to have a follow-up conversation with anyone that's interested.
Thanks so much, Bolis,
You're welcome.
for a great presentation. So again, inviting anyone in the audience to please submit your questions through the Q&A function. We are a little bit over time, so we're going to move right on over to Lisa from Nextlight. So I'm going to jump into sharing my screen again and inviting Lisa Green, Director of Project Management at Nextlight, for her quick pitch. I'm sorry, we're a little over time, but over to you, Lisa.
No worries. I'll go over 1 o'clock, but I'll try to be quick. You can go ahead and jump to the next slide. So Nextlight produces low-E and solar control coatings for flat transparent materials. So this is for glazing and fenestration. And low-E coatings are rather ubiquitous. They're on pretty much every energy efficient window sold today, but they are not on a lot of existing buildings. Go ahead to the next slide. So windows account for a large area of the building envelope, but they are also a small area of the building envelope, but they're responsible for a larger portion of the building envelope thermal transfer, which if you go to the next slide, you can see, so older buildings built before 1980, there's a very high percentage that you have single pane windows, and that is going to not provide very good insulation for the building itself. So all of the energy costs that are going into heating and cooling are going to be lost through those windows. And then if you look at sort of 1990, a really high percentage that you have double pane windows that have no high performance coating on them. And when you get to 2000, 2005, it's a good chance that your building will have double pane with low-E, which is a fairly high performance, modern standard type of a window. So again, if you have an older building, it's likely that if you haven't updated any of your fenestration, you are losing money through your windows. You can go to the next. Windows are definitely something that impact your energy uses. They can benefit the 4 of the top 5 sources of energy use in commercial buildings. You can go ahead. I'll get to how Nextlight can help. So one of our core applications for our low-E coatings is in commercial retrofit and secondary glazing. And we have some unique advantages. One is high performance. So we perform similar or better to low-E emissivity that would be in new windows that you could buy today. But we have a very unique advantage to us in that we are open air stable. So if you look at an existing window and you're trying to apply an insert to it, you're creating an airspace. So all of the low-E that's sold today requires double pane windows so that you insulate that coating against the air and any sort of corrosion. Our coating can go right in that air gap, so you don't have to condition that space. and it won't corrode or degrade over time. It can be applied to polymeric glass, which 52% lighter than glass, so that's lightweight, durable, and impact resistant as well. And these are manufactured applied permanent coatings, so they do not bubble, crack, and peel. So you'll get that energy advantage very similar to a new double pane window with a low E coating. Can hop to the next slide. So we've talked about this a lot, but this is the first time I'm going to be showing one of the case studies that we're doing, actively running right now. In this building, we took single pane glass and with a pretty high U factor, which is the thermal conductivity of the fenestration, and applied a Nexlite L80 coated insert and improved that U factor by about 70%. This building is in zone 4 in the US, which is that yellow band there, so kind of moderate needs between heating and cooling. I can go ahead to the next slide. So what we're showing here is actually the heat exchange from the building to the outside world. So on the left-hand side of this graph is the daytime, and that is heat flowing into the building is that negative axis. So you can see glass, the orange line, you've got a lot of heat coming into the building, and the insert is abating a lot of that on the insert window. And then at night, the glass has a lot of heat going out of the building, and the insert is stopping that. So it's kind of normalizing the thermal conductivity from the inside to the outside of the building. I didn't realize there were some animations on this one. So essentially these measurements track exactly how our product is meant to perform in those targets. And again, it's a well-known technology implemented in a lot of windows. If you can hop to the next slide. So also in terms of comfort, the surface temperature is significantly improved. So here you can see the temperature on the left-hand side, again, is the daytime, and on the right-hand side is the nighttime on that graph. So in the day, the glass surface is getting hot, very hot, and then in the nighttime, that glass surface is getting a lot cooler. So you can imagine if the building interior set point was at 23 degrees C, the insert temperature is keeping that window closer to that temperature and providing you more comfort as you walk past that window. It's going to feel more similar to the interior temperature. I'll go ahead and go on. The vision through these looks very good. They're very color neutral and have a very low reflection. They can actually help reduce some of the glare coming into the windows. You can go ahead. And then in terms of the ROI, so these calculations are actually somewhat of a worst case scenario. So I just modeled a random building that's 8,000 square feet, 3 stories with a 23% window to wall ratio. Honestly, can't tell you how representative that is. I've tried to take an average of commercial buildings. But what we're seeing in most cases, we're not accounting for any of the air leakage. We're not accounting for any of tax credit rebate programs, any of those sorts of things that can help look at this payback and the efficiency of these. So that can bring it down to between 5 and 10 years. When you look at places where energy costs are really cheap, maybe your ROI doesn't look as good, but places like New York City have programs that can significantly reduce that simple payback time. And there is a significant CO2 savings as well that you get from the energy abatement with installing these inserts. And every building is going to be different. The orientation of the building, the vintage, the window to wall ratio, the size of the windows and the way they're facing, the existing glazing type, what your existing HVAC is, and how you're consuming those energy, the energy that you're bringing in, what sources that comes from, and the costs can all have an impact on how well inserts can help your building. Go back to the next one. So I already talked about some of the benefits, right? Energy efficiency, the return on investment. You'll also get that improved air leakage, noise reduction. We've gotten a lot of feedback, and there are some companies that are selling inserts primarily on noise reduction. You reduce a lot of the road noise and sort of human conversation frequency through the windows when you apply additional insert panels. You get improved comfort, reduced condensation on the interior if that's a problem, improved durability and aesthetics in some cases. We talked about marketability and tenant comfort in the intro, and that is a big improvement that you can get here as well. Go ahead. So we do offer these types of inserts. They're typically done on coated and yield tempered float glass as well as the polymeric glass. Nextlight is also coating thin glass for other applications. And then I just wanted to touch base on the next slide as well. So while commercial retrofit and secondary glazing is a primary application for us, we also produce or sell to people who make new construction windows and commercial glazing, as well as refrigeration, transportation, and other markets. And again, like Bolis and Mark, happy for people to, I know it was a lot of information, happy for people to reach out for a longer discussion or pitch.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lisa. So
Thank
Lisa's
you.
contact information is on the screen right now if you want to snag it, and you can submit a question through the Q&A function. We don't have a lot of time left. We're actually at negative time, but I did want to share a couple of really quick things before we wrap up. So firstly, thank you so much to Lisa, Bolis, Mark, and our panelists for their presentations today. Thank you all for attending, and I wanted to flag a couple of upcoming things. So if you're interested in housing, please join us for our second webinar on the 25th, which is called Future Foundations, Innovations for Sustainable New Homes. We'll have pitches from Intelligent City, Carbon Upcycling, and Tiny Box, and speakers from Windmill Developments, Northcrest, and Elite Partners. So that's going to be really, really fun. So please do register at the link in the chat. Also, a reminder to join our corporate cohort if you fit the profile. The survey to start that process is also going to be in the chat. There's also a little survey that we would appreciate if you could fill out. And finally, Toronto Climate Week is coming up. So we'll be hosting a Prop Tech for Planet Happy Hour on October 2nd. So link to register for that also in the chat, and mark your calendar for the 2nd for more built environment events that day to be announced very soon. So lots happening in the space. Please stay engaged with us. Thank you so much again to our panelists for a great discussion, to our presenters for their fantastic pitches, and to you all for joining us. We hope to see you soon. Thanks.